In this video, we'll step through how to complete the remaining tabs of the project, including the mapping, the IDs, the attachments, project questions, schedule info, and the related projects. Once you have the programming tab completed, you want to move on to the remaining of the tabs. The first tab to the right is the obligation tab, which provides information on obligations for funding on the project. Since this project is requesting funding, there's nothing to complete on this tab. If we continue moving to the right, we can see there's the map tab. For this, of course, you'll want to map the project. You can zoom into the project location if you know where it is, or you can use the search bar. So say for this project, we were doing a project along 147th Street from Pulaski to Kedzie. I know that's in Midlothian, so I could type in Midlothian to the search bar. And that brings up the location of the project. From here, we can edit and add the map. And to do that, we'll want to click on the edit button in the top right corner. If it was an intersection project we were applying for funding for, we could use this point selection and click on the intersection that we were applying for. If it was a roadway we were applying for, we could click and drag across, double click, and it draws a point for us. You can see the snap to road is on, and what that does is if you draw a point a little off the road, it'll snap it into the spot of the roadway. Of course, if you realize you drew the line wrong, you can select it and delete the line at any point. And again, say if we were applying for funding for a bike trail or a road that does not exist on this map, we could go ahead, select this polyline, unselect the snap to road, and then it allows us to add a line where there's no road. So say we are adding a bikeway that ran from along 150th across this area where there's not a current roadway. We could again click on our starting point and then go across and double click on our endpoint, and it'll add that line into the map. Once we have our map correct, we can go ahead and click Save Changes. And save it. And that is how you can map the project. If we move over to the IDs tab, you'll want to put any associated IDs with the project into this area. If the project doesn't have any existing funding awarded on it, it likely won't have any IDs. However, it has received funding in the past, it's most likely has IDs that you can add in here. In addition, there are a couple contacts you'll want to add into this top portion. So again, to complete this section, we'll want to click on the Edit button up at the top. And there is, you can see 9 different selections here. There are only 3 that are labeled as CMAP, and those are the 3 that you'll want to complete. The others are for different MPOs in the state and can be left blank. So for the CMAP programming lead, if you click on this, you'll want to select the planning liaison that's associated with your council. So for example, if we were applying for a project in DuPage Council, we'd want to select Matt Pasquini. And the same thing here for the public contact. That's going to be the same as the programming lead. So we can go and find Matt. And now lastly, for the CMAP applicant contact, this should be the individual who's completing the application. So likely yourself, or maybe it's another person you work alongside, but you'll want to find that individual in here. Let's say it's Chris Baker, for example, for this purpose. we'll select that individual into here. And those are the 3 selections within this contact portion that you'll want to complete. Now moving down into the IDs, again, this is likely going to be for projects that have already been awarded funding. You're likely not applying for a transit project, so there's not going to be an FTA grant number or RTA Schedule 2B. The things that you might have are the state job number, the IDOT section number, or the federal project number. So say we had a federal project number, we just click into the ID section and then enter in a federal ID. And once we have it in there, we can go ahead and select Add ID, and I'll go up here to the top. We'll do that again for any IDs that you do have on the project. And then you can go up here and select Save Changes. For attachments, this is where you'll upload any supplemental materials for your application. So this typically includes a detailed cost estimate, location document, quarterly status update, and a supplemental questionnaire in some cases. To upload, we'll want to go ahead and click Edit again. And from here, you can either drag and drop files. So I'm going to drag in a detailed estimate of costs. And you can see it automatically generates the document date, description, detailed estimate of cost. And we'll want to go in here and select the document type. So we'll go and search for cost estimate, or go up to call for projects, the CFP portion, and we can see there's detailed estimate of costs. We could select that, and then if we did want to change the date, it allows us to edit it. So say this detailed estimate of cost was created in July of this year, we could go ahead and change that to 7/1/25. And then say we want to add a couple more documents, we can go ahead and select this option here for select files instead. They'll bring up our files here, and then I can go in and add the quarterly status update. And again, we can change the date if we need to, and then we'll have to select a document type. So we can stay here and look under the CFP options and see that there's an initial quarterly status update. And then finally, we'll upload the supplemental application workbook. And then for this, we can add in the application workbook. And now we have all 3 of our documents uploaded into the attachments. So I can go ahead, save changes. And now you can see all 3 of those documents are there. Revision history is another tab you can ignore, which brings us to the project questions. Questions that are required are indicated at the bottom in orange or red. So right now you cannot see those, but if we go ahead and click edit, you can see those pop up here, required field to submit for review. So you want to go through all these and make sure you're completing the ones that are required and seeing if you have answers to the ones that are not. So these first ones that are required are asking if the project may influence which of the performance targets. So say we're doing a safety project, we can reasonably assume that highway safety is going to be impacted, and we may select that. It also allows for more than one option. So say that it also could affect pavement condition, we could also select that. And the next question, does this project include elements to specifically address safety? Well, since we added highway safety as a impacting and performance target, the answer here is likely also yes. And it's asking for a total cost for elements to specifically address safety. If we didn't know, we might move on. It's not required. But if we did know, we go ahead and add an amount. Here's another required question. It asks, does the project sponsor have a publicly available ADA transition plan? We go in and select yes. And now all the required questions that are being asked are completed. Again, still go through and answer the rest of the questions that are there, but you want to make sure you are definitely answering the ones that are required. And finally, save your changes. Moving over to the schedule info, you'll want to include when each phase was completed or is anticipated to be completed. So for example, let's say engineering 1 has already been done. So for this, we go ahead and here and edit it. And we'd say engineering 1, that happened, let's say in January 25. And then we go in here and say, well, engineering 2, that's going to happen a year later. So it's going to be January 26th that's going to be completed. And the funding we're requesting for might be construction. So then we'd add in construction and construction engineering. And we might say this is going to happen in March of 27. And now we've completed our schedule for the project. For the general portion, this is asking for the current implementation status. So since engineering 1's completed and we're nearing the completion of engineering 2, we could reasonably assume that phase 2 engineering agreements have been submitted. They haven't been approved, but they've been submitted at this point. So we'd select the correct current implementation status. And lastly, the open to traffic. Since we're expecting construction to happen in March of 27, we might say that this project may be open to traffic in 2028. And now you've completed the schedule information tab, and we go ahead and save the changes. The last tab to complete is the related projects tab. And this is only if the project is connected or related to another existing project in the tip. If it isn't, you can ignore this tab. But if it is related to a project, you'll need to select link project. So once you select the edit option, you can see that this link project option pops up, and you can go ahead and select that. And from here, you can go ahead and select the relationship type and then insert the project ID. So relationship type, we can say it's related to. And then here we actually have to type in the project tip ID. So say this is related to another DuPage Council project, we can type in 824. And as we type this in, you can see that options pop up in the search bar. And then you can select it from an existing tip ID. Once you have that tip ID in there, you can select link project. And now that will materialize here in the related projects. And you can even go in and click this project and open up its project page if you wanted to get more information about that project. So the last tab to the right is the delivery tab. And this is another tab you do not need to complete. So from here, you can go back through, review all the tabs you've completed from programming over to related projects tab. And once you are comfortable with what you've submitted, you can save any other changes you made. And submit the project for a review. And when you submit the project for a review, this is what submits your application into the workflow so the planning liaison can review it. And that is how you can submit your application. Thanks.